Last season, the Atlanta Hawks achieved something no other team in the league could figure out. They found a way to beat the New York Knicks when it mattered most. While opponents struggled to crack New York's physical style, relentless defense, and playoff intensity, Atlanta proved they were capable of standing toe-to-toe with one of the Eastern Conference's toughest teams, defeating the Knicks twice. But those victories weren't just surprising moments. They were a glimpse of what this Hawks team could become. With a young, explosive roster built around confidence, speed, and offensive firepower, Atlanta showed they had the talent to challenge the league's best on any given night. The problem was consistency. Injuries disrupted their momentum. Defensive weaknesses exposed their limitations, and too many flashes of greatness were followed by frustrating setbacks. The Hawks had the ability to compete with elite teams, but they struggled to maintain that level over the course of an entire season. Now, everything has changed. With a retooled roster, a developing young core, and a renewed sense of purpose, Atlanta enters a new season with expectations beyond simply being a dangerous underdog. They're no longer satisfied with stealing games from contenders. They want to become one of them. The Hawks aren't chasing respect anymore. They're chasing a place among the teams everyone fears facing.
Get it in. McCollum, fire! Hawks take the lead, 109 to 108.
The Hawks ultimately fell short in the series, but what they accomplished against the eventual champion New York Knicks changed the perception of this franchise. A team few expected to compete pushed New York harder than anyone outside of Atlanta imagined. For a young roster that had just moved on from its longtime franchise centerpiece, those battles proved something important. They weren't starting over. They were building something new. Instead of chasing the next superstar or making a desperate move for short-term success, Atlanta chose a different path. They trusted the foundation already in place. They strengthened their identity, attacked their biggest weaknesses, and quietly built one of the NBA's most promising young cores filled with talent, depth, and future flexibility. For the first time in years, the Hawks looked like a franchise with a real direction. They weren't simply fighting for a spot in the play-in tournament. They were creating a sustainable future. That new era officially began on January 8, 2026, when Atlanta made the decision that would define the franchise's next chapter. After more than 7 seasons as the face of the organization, 4-time All-Star Trae Young was traded to the Washington Wizards in exchange for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. Around the league, the move was viewed as a shock. Trading away a player of Young's caliber was already a massive decision, but doing so without receiving a single first-round pick made the deal even more surprising. But Atlanta wasn't chasing draft assets. They were chasing something more valuable. Freedom would be why moving on from Young's long-term financial commitment. The Hawks created the flexibility to keep their rising core together and fully commit to a new identity built around Jalen Johnson and one of the youngest, most athletic groups in the NBA at AT First. The decision looked risky. Atlanta sat at 18-21 after the All-Star break. Atlanta transformed into one of the league's hottest teams, winning 20 of their final 26 games, the 4th best record in the NBA during that stretch, trailing only the Spurs, Thunder, and Celtics. And this wasn't simply a hot streak. The numbers revealed a team that had completely changed its identity. Atlanta's offense remained among the league's most dangerous, producing a 118.3 offensive rating. But the biggest leap came on the defensive end, where the Hawks became one of the NBA's toughest teams, finishing second in defensive rating at 108.6. That balance created a dominant stretch of basketball. Atlanta posted a plus 9.7 net rating, the 4th best mark in the league. While their aggressive defensive pressure forced turnovers at an elite level, they led the NBA in points off turnovers, averaging 22.5 per game. By the end of the regular season, the Hawks had climbed 3 games. The Hawks had done the impossible. They held a 2-1 series lead and had the eventual champions facing real pressure. Eventually, New York's experience and championship-level execution took over. The Knicks adjusted, controlled the final 3 games, and ended Atlanta's season with a devastating 140-89 victory in Game 6. But that final score didn't erase what the Hawks had accomplished. During their entire championship run, Atlanta became the only team to defeat the Knicks twice. Not even Victor Wembanyama's Spurs were able to accomplish that in the finals. For a young team still discovering who it could become, those victories represented more than a playoff upset. They were proof that Atlanta's new identity could survive against the best teams in basketball. Entering the offseason, many expected the Hawks to make another major move. With multiple draft picks, financial flexibility, and valuable trade pieces, Atlanta had every opportunity to chase a superstar. Instead, they stayed patient. They chose development over desperation, continuity over chaos. The next step began with extending head coach Quinn Snyder and fully committing to the culture that had transformed the team. Atlanta wasn't searching for a new identity anymore. They had already found one. After reshaping their foundation, Atlanta continued adding pieces that fit the vision they had created. C.J. McCollum returned on a one-year deal, while the Hawks strengthened their depth by bringing in Aaron Wiggins from Oklahoma City and Devin Carter from Sacramento. For a while, those moves appeared to be the final additions of the offseason. Then everything changed. I am one of the summer's most overlooked moves. Atlanta completed a 3-team trade that brought in Lou Dort and promising young guard Ryan Nembhard. The price was significant. The Hawks sent former number 1 overall pick Zachary Rizicher to the Dallas Mavericks, while also giving up 2 second-round picks. IT wasn't the type of trade that dominated television headlines. There was no superstar arrival, no franchise-altering announcement, no blockbuster name suddenly changing the balance of the league. But it revealed something far more important. The Hawks knew exactly what they wanted to become. Instead of chasing another star and changing their direction, Atlanta chose to strengthen the identity that had carried them through their incredible second-half run. They weren't trying to become a different team. They were trying to become a better version of the team they had already discovered. Under Quinn Snyder, the Hawks transformed into one of the NBA's most dangerous transition teams. Their formula was simple but relentless. Create chaos, force mistakes, and turn defensive pressure into instant offense. They weren't built around slowing the game down and winning with difficult half-court possessions. They wanted pace. They wanted pressure. They wanted opponents uncomfortable from the opening tip. And the results proved it worked. Atlanta finished 5th in the NBA in pace and ranked among the league leaders in fast break scoring, consistently turning turnovers into easy points and using their athleticism to overwhelm opponents. That's exactly why the addition of Lou Dort made so much sense. Dort wasn't brought in to reinvent the Hawks system. He was brought in to make it even more dangerous. After helping Oklahoma City capture a championship and earning first-team All-Defense honors, Dort had already established himself as one of the NBA's most reliable perimeter stoppers. His value goes far beyond the box score. Even on nights when his shooting disappears, his impact remains impossible to ignore. His strength, toughness, defensive discipline, and willingness to accept the toughest assignments make him the type of player every contender needs. Now, he joins a defensive foundation that was already beginning to emerge as one of the league's best.